On this episode of the Naturist Living Show, a pro athlete tries nude volleyball.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show is brought to you by Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. At Bear Oaks, we offer traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Free your body, free your mind. www.bearoaks.ca.
Welcome, dear listeners, to episode number 56 of the Naturist Living Show. It's June here at Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park where I'm recording because it's hot and sunny and beautiful. And while I always try to respect you, listener, by recording nude, I prefer to do it, of course, at Bear Oaks when I can, not just in my basement, which I have to do in the winter. So right now we are in full naturist environment, or shall we say ideal naturist environment, because of course you can be a naturist in any weather and in any condition and even dressed. It's a mindset, but we are in an ideal naturist situation today. And I want to say a thank you and a shout out or a greeting to Arnold in the Netherlands, who sent me an email. As I've said before, I get a lot of greetings from everybody, and I really appreciate it. But it's really neat to hear from people in the faraway places that are listening, New Zealand and Australia and the UK and the Netherlands in this case. And it's very cool because, you know, with technology, with the internet, it's so easy now to reach the entire world with a small, very narrow focus podcast like this that has, well, narrow focus, but still with, as you know, 50, 60, 70,000 listeners a month. But in terms of the population of the world, that's not very much. But at any rate, Arnold sent me an email to point me towards an article that was very interesting. You may remember almost a year ago on episode number 45, I interviewed Sydney Ross Singer, of the author of the book Dress to Kill, and he makes the argument that bras are bad for your health and don't help. And there is now a study, which Arnold sent to me, that has been done by a French doctor who seems to support that conclusion. And it's he'll be the first one to say that it's just the beginning of research, but he has been doing it since 1997, so it's a long-term one where he's been working with 320 women and following them year after year. They've been not wearing bras, and 4 times a year for the first year, and then after that, once per year, he's been taking some basic measurements of the height and shape and elasticity of the breasts and that kind of thing. And he's the first one to admit that these are preliminary results, and he's hoping somebody will do a much larger scale study. It appears that bras actually have the inverse effect, certainly do not provide any beneficial effect in terms of preventing sagging or in terms of preventing injury or that kind of thing. In fact, it may do the opposite in terms of weakening the supportive tissues and ligaments that are there. So an interesting study. Again, it's a correlation. It's not a clear conclusion. He's very clear about that. He got a lot of press. You may have seen it in the media. The English press picked it up, and there was actually an article written about how much press he's received. Because, of course, this is a very titillating topic that would just get everybody's interest in terms of the media. Sometimes it's so easy to get media articles, isn't it? As I said in the introduction, it's June of 2013, and we are just at the beginning of our volleyball tournament as we're recording this. We're just getting the final things organized for our July 1st long weekend tournament, one of 2 big volleyball tournaments we host that are growing every year. And I'm really a big fan of volleyball because it's just, first of all, it's a traditional naturist sport. It's been in the naturist world since the beginning of naturism. The game was invented at the very end of the 19th century, and as 10, 15 years later, there's evidence that it was being played in naturist clubs already. I think it's because it's a very inclusive game. It doesn't require a lot of equipment, and it's perfect for playing nude, of course. And so, of course, everybody who listens to this show knows that I'm a big fan of history and traditions that way, not always doing everything the same way, but remembering where we came from and remembering the source of our philosophy and how we've evolved. So I like the sport from that angle. I also like it because I like to promote activities. People just, it's a bad stereotype now that's out there that naturists, we're all sitting around lazy, fat, drinking beer and smoking and whatever it is. And that's not true. It is about health. It is about being healthy. And as we talked about in earlier shows, if you want to attract young people, you have to have activities and things for them to do. And young people like to be playing sports and be active, and tournaments like this are a lot of fun. We have volleyball every weekend because we have a permanent court, but this is the big tournament, and this year we have bigger prizes. We're actually offering a $500 cash prize in both tournaments for the very top team. Very top team, of course, would have to be playing at the A level. So with that in mind, I was looking through some nude volleyball stuff and materials online and looking for some more information. And I ran across a piece from ESPN that ran 3-4 years ago or something. And basically they got a group of people to go and play in the White Thorn Nude Volleyball Tournament, which is known as a Super Bowl of volleyball tournament. It's been going on for a few decades now. And it's huge. I mean, we're talking about thousands of people, I think. I've actually never been there, but as you heard in one of the earliest podcasts we did, the fourth one, which was also on volleyball, Peter Allison, who helps organize the volleyball tournaments here at Bear Oaks, has been going regularly for a long time, and he says it's fantastic. It's the second weekend in September, or the weekend right after. I don't know if it's the second weekend. It's the weekend right after Labor Day, anyway. So in this ESPN piece, there is a player, a pro volleyball player who was brought in. I think they're all pros or very good players that were put together for this team, and none of them naturists, all of them doing this for the first time. And they were brought together by ESPN to do this special piece, this feature for what they call the body issue. And one of them, Michele Rauter, is also a Canadian. So I decided to see if I could track her down, and I found her. She's currently living in Honduras right now. And I found her there, and we had the following little chat.
I am originally from North Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I got started volleyball at a very young age. My mom started coaching me when I was in about 5th grade. Played in high school, played many other sports. Kind of fell in love with volleyball and chose that for my path to go to attend the University of Wyoming, where I had a full ride scholarship. And then after there, I was lucky enough to head over to Europe and play in a few different countries professionally, indoor volleyball. And it was a pretty amazing experience.
So you were actually considered a professional volleyball player. And while you were doing that, you ended up playing in the Super Bowl of volleyball at White Thorn. How did that happen?
Actually, ESPN had contacted my agency. Yes, we have agents. And the agency had sent out an email to a few females that they thought may be interested. And I was in California at the time. I got the email. I responded. I was like, yes, because going to a nudist resort and obviously being in ESPN Magazine are two things on my checklist. And to knock two things out in one trip was perfect.
Well, I don't know if going to play volleyball nude is on everybody's checklist. Why was it on yours?
I guess playing volleyball nude was not on the checklist, but going to a nudist resort and then obviously the magazine is a little separate. But when I heard about the opportunity, that made me think, like, what's it gonna be like to play naked? And I had, a solid 2 or 3 months to think about that before we actually took the trip. And I don't think anything you conjure up in your own mind can prepare you for what you experience when you get there.
Yes, well, that's fair enough.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. I know, and I know that from, running Bear Oaks, I talk to people um, all the time, and it's like you're talking them through some very big thing, like jumping out of an
Yes.
airplane, and they almost always say afterwards, "It's not what I expected." And it's at
Mhm.
first I used to say, "Well, we talk about it for 6 hours. And I told you what it was going to be like, but in your head, until you experience it, it's hard to know, I think."
Completely, definitely.
So your agent even brought this to you, which surprises me a little bit because did they think this is something you would do?
Yeah, exactly. They at the firm they probably have maybe anywhere from 60 to 100 different female athletes signed on with them. And then they also have males. So they have a lot of athletes that are at their exposure. And they know them well, they get to know them, they get to know their personalities so that they can place them in a proper country or a proper club over there that's going to make them happy. And they I was, I think, one of 6 girls, maybe 6 or 7 girls that they sent the email out to, just knowing that we are possibly more free spirited, if you want to call it that.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of their thinking on that, their strategy.
And did all 6 say yes?
I have no idea who responded, but I do know that myself and Carol Hamilton were lucky enough to snatch the opportunity.
Oh, good. So was there,
Yeah.
did ESPN prepare you, or was it all up to you to get ready for this?
I mean, um, like physically or mentally ready.
Probably more
um,
mentally, I would guess.
right.
You were already a good volleyball player.
They didn't prep us extremely well. They took care of everything, like we didn't have to worry about, the flights. We didn't have to worry about like accommodation or anything like that. So it was that was all taken care of. Thank you, ESPN Magazine. But they never told us that we were actually playing with the men, like in the men's league on a men's team. They had mentioned in their email it was going to be, they were wanting women. So we're assuming, okay, 6 women playing against women. And not until we actually arrived that we found out that we're playing with men in the men's division on
Hmm.
men's height net.
And was that a little disturbing?
No, it was just it was shocking. Um, but it turned out to be really fun, because it's fun to play with the guys sometimes.
Hmm.
It's a completely different volleyball game. It's very powerful. It's very quick. So it's a challenge.
So did you find the volleyball challenging?
Um, I mean, I found it as a new challenge because you are put into a jungle. I mean, you're put into a new environment. But it wasn't extremely challenging. The volleyball was great caliber there, I think. Especially the men. They have some great teams come out for that. But yeah, it was definitely a new challenge for me.
So tell me what the overall experience was like from the time you arrived there.
When you arrive, I mean, you have little butterflies in your stomach. You don't know what to expect. You have a million questions, a million things going on in your mind. You get there, within the first couple hours, but definitely the first day, you've completely eased up. You've got many of your questions answered because nudists are very helpful. They want to, they can tell you're new. They smell it.
Yeah.
They can smell the fear possibly, or just, sense the hesitation. So, I definitely learned a lot in the first day, but I think we were there for 4 days. I think by day 3 or 4, it was just like, I don't want to leave. Like, I don't want to leave. I could live like this.
Well, in fact, you went back. You went back on your own dime, didn't you?
I've returned twice now. The past 2 years, I missed the 1 year following ESPN. But the last 2 years, I've played with the women, with the Canadian team, And we have won, actually, both
Wow, congratulations.
championships. Thank you. Yeah, it was pretty fun.
And are you going back this year as well?
Right now, it's unknown. I mean, if it happens, it'll definitely be a last-minute trip, because I will still be currently in Honduras at that time, or Central America at least. So, but I would love to make it back, and I would love to play with my same girls, and I would love to win again.
So it's you're not playing volleyball professionally anymore. Is it not a sport that's easy to succeed in professionally?
I think it is. I think anything that we want to do, we can succeed in, successfully, however we term success. But I think it's volleyball is one of those sports that it's more of a love for the game, because maybe it isn't always about the money, where some sports have been lost in the money, the purity of it, at least, and the heart behind it. So that's what, especially looking at beach volleyball, that is, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to break into. But it's a very strong love for that game.
Are you still playing even at the amateur level competitively, or?
I am actually playing here on the island. I am in Honduras. It's called Rouillon, and we have a women's league here. And I am coaching them, and I'm playing with them. And it's on hard court. It's outdoor. We don't have any gymnasiums. Everything's outdoor here. It's lovely. And then I'm also playing beach, but just for fun with the guys. We have some of the local guys play here. We play 2-on-2, and then we end up playing 4-on-4 when, some other more people show up. And they're very good, though. They're very good. They're very talented.
But you're playing dressed, of course.
Yes, unfortunately.
Is there a difference between playing nude and playing dressed?
Yes. And not the openness of it, but I think for women, when you don't have a bra or some kind of support, that's probably the only thing I really notice,
Okay.
But playing on the beach naked, I mean, the hard court's the hard court. It's kind of weird. It's awkward. You're wearing shoes, you're not completely naked. But I actually competed 2 years ago on the sand court at White Thorn Lodge and they play 4-on-4. And this is before the big tournament on Saturday starts. Mm-hmm. And I played with a couple of guys, and we ended up winning. And that sand there is just gorgeously white, so smooth, and you're naked. And I was like, oh, this is the way to play beach volleyball. Like a bathing suit. I could definitely play beach volleyball naked, but hardcore, I could have a little couple, some spandex and a bra on or something.
Yeah.
You just feel a little better.
Well, we have a tournament at Bear Oaks, and we have a permanent sand court that we will play on. But we during a tournament we need 4 courts, so we do 3 grass courts, and that's I guess a little between. It's a little harder than sand. But people who play really well, I've always said, they would like to have hard courts, but I'm always thinking, wow, that seems a little nasty, naked.
Yeah, it holds you back, that's for sure. And sometimes people dive, and then some people screech, and everyone's like, ah. But yeah, it holds you back a little bit, unfortunately.
So why do people who play well prefer hard courts, or is it not all good players who do?
I don't think so. I think it depends on the skill of the player. Some people just thrive better on the sand, Some people are better on hard court. Maybe it comes down to the training that they're used to. I mean, if you're on the sand, you need to train in the sand until you actually can move in the sand. It might take you weeks. It might take you months to really get the timing of beach volleyball and an attack and the technique.
So why did you end up, you were doing mostly beach volleyball, right?
I was doing mostly indoor volleyball for a majority of my career. I did a little bit of beach volleyball. Lived in Southern California with my partner from Canada. And we trained double days, triple days. We trained pretty hard and competed at our Canadian nationals. And then after that season, we parted, and I went back to indoor because I still was in love.
So why did you lean towards that versus sand? Was it just what was available?
I just had never really gotten into beach very much. Sadly enough, it wasn't huge, I guess, in the 90s when I was in high school in Vancouver, in North Van. So I never really got introduced to it until I was in my mid-20s. And then, it was a new challenge that I don't think I was ready for, and I wasn't willing to give up indoor yet. So now I prefer playing on the beach myself. I would rather play 2-on-2, now that I'm accustomed to it.
Right. And typically beach volleyball is 2-on-2. Even in the naturist world, it tends to be more 6-on-6 on sand, that's a typical hard court configuration, isn't it?
Right.
And why is it that you play 2-on-2 on sand? Is it because you can move faster? The court size, is it the same?
The court size is smaller. So an indoor court or hard court is 9 meters by 9 meters each side. A beach one is 8 meters by 8 meters. So you don't think it's a lot smaller, but when you're two people, it makes a huge difference.
True, but you're losing 1 meter by 1 meter in each direction, but you're going from 6 to 2. You gotta cover a lot more ground.
You do, but that's why the technique and the strategy behind beach volleyball is completely different than indoor. I mean, they really are separate games. When you're in beach volleyball, you're two, but you're keeping everything small. You're keeping the game in a small square, inside the court. That's why you pass it just in front of you, and that person comes and sets it just in front of you. So you don't you don't have that room to play with because you're trying to consume your energy. Indoor, you catch the ball less. You have a smaller area to cover. But there's more options attack-wise and defensive-wise. They're totally different when you're looking at both ends of the game.
Now, volleyball is widely credited to have been invented by William Morgan in 1895. And, I don't know if you know this, but naturists and nudist clubs, there's records of them playing in the early 1920s. So they were really early adopters. In fact, I think it's like a cliche, right? If you've watched MASH, Hawkeye was into his nudist volleyball magazines. But why do you think it's become such a popular game within the naturist or nudist community?
I actually did not know that fact. Thank you for that. Now I know. Maybe that's the reason why, because I've asked myself the same question and I've never had an answer for it. But it does seem to be pretty popular, no matter where you go in the U.S. or even Canada. At the club that I was a member at, Glen Eden in California, tennis was the big thing there. They had lots of tennis courts, but we did have a volleyball court with nice hard court. It was caged in, and they play every weekend and all that stuff. But I honestly can't answer that question for you.
Yeah, I know at Bear Oaks, I know that what I like about it, and a lot of people like, is it's a very inclusive game because you can put 12 people on the court in not a very big space, and even if you've never played, you can kind of, and you're not particularly athletic, you can play. Like, you're not going to be killing anybody, but you can play, and so maybe that's one of the appeals to it. I don't know.
Right. Maybe that. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It's a fun sport, I think. It's social.
Yes.
It's good.
Yeah, and unlike some other sports, you don't need any clothing. You don't need any protective equipment.
You don't need anything but your hands.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to play football naked, for example.
Yeah, a little foot action.
But there is an issue. I don't know if you've noticed that the average age of volleyball players is going up, and there's fewer of them because as people get older, they have, at least in naturism anyway, as people get older, they can't play as well, or they can't play at all if they, you know, damage their knees. Is there anything, do you think, that we can do to attract more young people to play?
Now, are you talking about to play or to even just come out
Well,
to
it's interesting.
resorts? Because I find it's a dying in both ways.
Well, the young people coming to Bear Oaks is not an issue at all. We are
Okay.
attracting lots of young people, and there are clubs and resorts that do. It's in my opinion, it's just a marketing thing. I did a whole
Right.
podcast on that. I think a lot of
Okay.
clubs just don't market it to young people because the ones that come to Bear Oaks are really into it. But we're not getting the volleyball players, and that's and you know within this. I've got to imagine that attracting young people to come play volleyball in the 1960s, who were, you know, maybe a good volleyball player, was more challenging than it is today. Because today, you know, our whole civilization has become much more open towards nudity and that kind of thing. So how do you attract people like you who are not necessarily naturists or nudists yet, but are really into volleyball?
I would say hosting tournaments is a good one, and if you can put together a cash purse, um, then you're going to get volleyball players because they want to make money, and you have many volleyball players in you're in the Toronto area, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you have a lot of volleyball players in Ontario, and pretty good ones too. So I would definitely sell it as tournaments. Here, win some money, $500 for the winner or this or that. No matter what if it's men, women, co-ed, if it's mixed, if it's grass, like, whatever it is, they love that stuff over there, especially during the summertime.
Well, I'm glad you said it because we'll see if it works. But this weekend, July 1st weekend, is our first tournament where we have a cash prize. We have a $500 prize for the top team,
Boom.
and we're doing another $500 cash prize for the second tournament we're doing in August, third weekend in August. So that was I'll see if it works because somebody else had suggested that as well, and I thought, well, if it gets some really good players in, that I think will
Hmm.
attract the more novice players, right? Because if you're into it or just getting into it, it's always cool to watch the really good player. It kind of elevates
Right.
everybody, right?
Right. And they learn from it. Everyone
Yeah.
learns from it. It grows.
So, are you going to continue to play naturist or nudist volleyball?
Of course. I mean, I think I'm a lifer in the naturism world, but unfortunately, where I'm living right now, nudity isn't really. I guess they're not really open to it. I'm living in Honduras, and they're a little more conservative here on the island. But I can always go for a nice little flight to White Thorn or to your club or wherever to play. Um, I just majority of my world is not focused on volleyball anymore, at least playing.
Right.
I'm really into coaching now, so I will continue to excuse the truck driving by my house. It's possibly loud. Um, so yes, coaching is where I am focused now, and coaching on the court, off the court, in life, and just growing a little community and a family here.
Now, you're not. It's not just a volleyball. You actually appreciate naturism or nudism for what it is, right?
Of course, like you mentioned, the reason why you call it naturism instead of nudism, because it's more than just being naked, so much more.
Now, why do you think you took to that, so relatively easily compared to others who wouldn't have even considered going to a naturist club, never mind, playing naked for a national publication?
I think I am, as some people that know me call me a free spirit, if you will, open minded, clear, a light. It's 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 a mentality. It's in your mind, if you want to reject it or if you want to accept it. And most people are just shut off to that. And I think I've traveled so much that it's allowed me to open my mind to new things and new experiences. And that possibly, living in Europe, possibly definitely took me there, started me there.
Well, and I'm sure everybody listening to the podcast would agree that people who embrace naturism are obviously highly intelligent. Um,
Yes.
but do you think also your upbringing had something to do with it too?
No.
Oh,
No,
interesting.
just no. The way I was raised was um, very German. I'm Austrian, my background, but it's very German. And yeah, we weren't, running around naked all the time. So I definitely wasn't in that world. And, growing up in Canada, going to high school, it's not like America where, in gym class, you go and you shower or whatever, or you shower after your sports game at the school. In Canada, you go straight home and shower at home. So you're not really exposed to that nudity. The first time I was when I went to University of Wyoming and started playing volleyball there. And of course, we're in the locker room after practice. You have to take all your clothes off. It gets washed. They wash it for you. You get to jump in the shower. You rinse off. You put your other clothes on. You go rehab. You go eat. You go do whatever you do. And you're showering with these girls 2-3 times a day. 4 years in a row. It just opens you up. You get comfortable with yourself.
Are you saying that Wyoming is actually more open to nudity than British Columbia?
No, I'm not saying that. But just going to the university and being a volleyball, being an athlete there, athletes are showering with other athletes.
So it's more something
Nude,
that would happen in any kind of athletic sort of situation.
any athletics, yeah, exactly. And in the athlete world, it becomes common.
I would guess also that being an athlete, you learn to look at your body differently.
Yes. I mean, some look at it as a machine. I've heard that many times from athletes. Um, some damage it, some don't, but um, I don't think it made me look at it bad, as if, like, say, if I was a model and then you are hating your body. I think it might do the opposite. It makes you love your body because you're in great shape. You look great. So you kind
So,
of love that.
so do you think being an athlete, if you combine that with naturism, would help you be an athlete?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And traditionally, very traditionally, going back to the Greeks, then athleticism was nude. Do you think that would the sport or sport in general would be different if it was nude?
It would be extremely different. I think it would be better, possibly. But I think if sport was nude, I feel like all world would be nude. Um, Nudity is, at the same time, you're talking about looking at these athletes' bodies, and it could do the same thing as well, as we're doing now. Is, we embrace these athletes, we look at them and we're like, oh, I want that body, I want that body, I want that body, I can't have that body. But I think if maybe possibly they were nude, it would be a little bit better, because then you see the imperfections, because we know that no one's perfect. But, when we're covered up, we don't know that.
Yeah, I look at athletes that do whatever they do with it in amazement in terms of the height that they've reached of fine tuning their how everything works. I know I could never be there. I don't think I want to be, lifting weights that I can see, or run as fast as I can see, or do any of that, because one, I'm too old anyway, but I'm not necessarily built, and it's not what I chose there. So I don't envy it. To me, it's like, if you go to the museum, you see the, beautiful statues and beautiful art, or you see, go to the landscapes and you see beautiful mountains.
Right.
It's part of, wow. Maybe, if you were a naturist, if everybody was a naturist, they would be able to look at that and not envy, and just recognize the differences. I don't know.
And appreciate it for what it is. Yeah, you are right. It is art. It's beautiful.
So if you're interested in the volleyball tournaments at Bear Oaks, you're certainly welcome to join us. It is the July 1st long weekend, which is Canada Day, and often incorporates July 4th, depending on how things fall, which is American Independence Day. And the second volleyball tournament is the Lee Baxendall Volleyball Tournament, named obviously in memory of Lee Baxendall, the founder of the Naturist Society. That is the third weekend in August. And if you're interested in going to White Thorn, that is the weekend after Labor Day. White Thorn is in Pennsylvania. And that's a fantastic experience as well. So there will be links to all of these things in the show notes, as usual. And that will be all for today's show. Again, thank you as always for listening. My name is Stéphane Deschênes. I'm your host for this podcast, and I'm the owner of Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. And please keep sending your comments and suggestions. I always appreciate getting them. The show's email address is naturistliving@bearoaks.ca. That's BARE, of course, bearoaks.ca, because we're in Canada. And that's also the where the show notes can be found, which is also at naturistliving, one word, .bearoaks.ca. Join us again in about a month for the next episode of the Naturist Living Show.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show was brought to you by Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. Traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Traditional values means that naturism is more than just taking your clothes off. It is a life philosophy with physical, psychological, environmental, social, and moral benefits. Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park strives to promote those naturist values in a modern setting that provides the amenities and services that our members and visitors expect. Free your body, free your mind. Learn more at www.bearoaks.ca.